Battle through the heavens. A hot air wave was flowing to and fro within the quiet small valley, causing the poison fog in the air to continuously pale. There was a human figure sitting on an enormous rock in the valley. An enormous, crimson medicinal cauldron was suspended in the air in front of the figure. Jade-green flames burned fiercely within the cauldron. The hot air wave of the valley was spreading from this place. A couple of human figures were standing 100 meters away from this enormous rock. Their gazes were gathered on the medicinal cauldron. It has already been 6 days. Xiao Yan looked at the focused human figure on the enormous rock, sighed softly, and commented. A Tier 7 medicinal pill is not easy to refine. Naturally, one must spend some time. The little fairy doctor was not surprised. She softly said, moreover, the pill qi within the medicinal cauldron is becoming denser. It is likely that it will not be long until the pill is formed. Xiao Yan nodded when she heard the little fairy doctor's explanation. She was just about to speak when the medicinal cauldron, a short distance away, suddenly shook. A clear buzzing sound rippled from it and reverberated over the valley. What is it? This unexpected change caused the little fairy doctor and the others to hurriedly throw their gazes over. An unusually dense pill qi suddenly spat out from the medicinal cauldron like a volcano after it emitted a buzzing sound. One could vaguely see the origin of the pill qi seemed to be from a round medicinal pill wrapped in a jade-green flame. Is it about to form a pill? The little fairy doctor felt joyful when she sensed the density of this pill qi. In front of the focus of the little fairy doctor's group, the pill qi being spat out from the medicinal cauldron became denser. In the end, almost the entire valley was permeated by this pill fragrance that braced one's attention. Clearly, this was an indication that a pill was about to be formed. Xiao Yan slowly opened his narrowed eyes while the pill qi spewed forth. He looked at this scene and a pleased expression surfaced on his face. The spewing pill qi became fiercer. In the end, it broke through the layer of poison fog in the sky. Having been summoned by this dense pill qi, dark clouds swiftly began to gather in the sky. A joy immediately appeared in Xiao Yan's eyes when he saw this scene. He did not expect the yin-yang life soul pill to attract pill lightning. Pill lightning, that was the greatest headache for alchemist, was something that Xiao Yan loved to see because his earth demon puppet would be strengthened after a pill lightning refinement. The last time around, the earth demon puppet was strengthened to the point that it could contend with an 8-star Dou Zong. Xiao Yan wondered just what level the earth demon puppet would reach if it was to experience pill lightning again. While Xiao Yan excitedly summoned the earth demon puppet once again, the dark clouds that had gathered in the sky suddenly paused. After which, they became distorted. Although there were some muffled thunderous sounds, a scene where lightning cut through the distant air and fell did not occur. Instead, after some squirming, the dark clouds gradually scattered. The sudden scattering of the pill lightning was just like a basin of cold water being splashed on Xiao Yan's head, extinguishing all of his excitement. Why did the pill lightning disappear by itself? Xiao Yan was stunned as he looked at the dark clouds in the air before he bitterly laughed a moment later. Big brother Xiao Yan, the poison fog within the fallen god stream is far too dense. Perhaps it is because the poison vapor has covered the pill qi, causing the pill lightning to fail to find its target and ended up scattering by itself. The little fairy doctor's group was also stunned by this scene. After which, Xiao Yan mused for a moment before finally crying out loud. Unlucky, however, I'm pressed for time and don't have the time to deal with pill lightning. Xiao Yan quietly voiced his unluckiness in his heart before he waved his hand. The black-red medicinal pill within the medicinal cauldron was sucked out. This is the yin-yang life soul pill Xiao Yan's eyes observed the medicinal pill in his hand as he muttered to himself. This medicinal pill was the size of a dragon's eye. It was both black and red in color. It had a rounded surface that contained a brilliant luster. When one's hand rubbed over it, one would feel an icy coldness on one side while the other was warm, causing one to feel a great comfort. Since the medicinal pill has been successfully refined, next will be the refinement of the body. Xiao Yan gently inhaled a breath of air. He randomly stored away the medicinal cauldron and waved his hand. A corpse that was covered in ice appeared. This corpse was that of Yun Shan from the Misty Cloud sect. Originally, Xiao Yan had prepared it for Yao Lao back then. However, a corpse of this level could no longer catch Xiao Yan's eyes. It would be used to conduct an experiment. After summoning the corpse, the body refining method that Yao Lao had taught Xiao Yan flowed into his mind. A moment later, he quietly nodded. He waved his hand and an invisible wind dragged the corpse, suspending it in the air. Xiao Yan waved his hand and a wisp of glazed lotus heart flame appeared. It emitted a puff sound as wrapped around the corpse. The cold ice on the corpse swiftly melted under the frighteningly high temperature of the glazed lotus heart flame. "Old Mr. Yao, hand me a thread of spiritual strength." Xiao Yan spoke in a deep voice as he looked at the ice that swiftly scattered. Hearing this, a thread of spiritual strength was immediately separated from between Tian Huazunja's brows. After which, this spiritual strength drifted to Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan grabbed the spiritual strength and randomly tossed it into the corpse. After which, the yin-yang life soul pill was tossed to Tian Huazunja. "Consume it. Once I give the word, you should immediately enter this body." Tian Huazunja nodded with a grave expression. He stuffed the medicinal pill into his mouth without any hesitation. An excitement was flickering in his eyes. Xiao Yan's hand squeezed with a great force and the jade bottle burst apart. The large cluster of liquid blood scattered. With a wave of Xiao Yan's hand, all of the blood landed on the body surrounded by flames. Waves of sizzling sounds were suddenly emitted when the liquid blood had just made contact with the corpse. One could see the skin of the corpse began to swiftly rot. This change did not cause Xiao Yan's expression to alter. After an indifferent glance, Xiao Yan commanded the glazed lotus heart flame and suddenly increased its temperature. Following the increase in the temperature of the glazed lotus heart flame, the blood that adhered to the corpse began to slowly seep into it in a strange manner. The originally pale white flesh was gradually filled with life when the essence blood merged with it. Around half an hour after the essence blood gradually merged into the corpse, Yun Shan's tightly shut eyes were suddenly opened. His empty eyes contained a fluctuating life force. Of course, this life force was not Yun Shan's life force. Instead, it was due to the thread of soul from Tian Huazunja. When Yun Shan opened his eyes, Xiao Yan suddenly let out a deep cry, "Old Mr. Yao, enter." Tian Huazunja, who had already been waiting for the order by the side, was filled with excitement when he heard Xiao Yan's cry. After which, his illusionary figure rushed into the corpse. After which, he penetrated through the glazed lotus heart flame and pounced into the corpse, which was covered in a red-colored glow. A strange black-red ripple emitted from the middle of Tian Huazunja's brows the moment his soul made contact with the corpse. The ripple spread at lightning-like speed as it covered the entire body. Puff! The soul of Tian Huazunja and the corpse suddenly collided as the black-red ripple spread. This time around, the collision did not repel the soul. Instead, the soul slowly merged into the body. Is it successfully completed? Xian Lan and the little fairy doctor by the side were unable to control their joy as they asked after seeing Tian Huazunja's soul merge with the body. The both of you should head to the entrance of the valley and stand guard there. The earth demon puppet will aid you. Remember, do not allow anyone to enter. Xiao Yan instructed them in a deep voice. The little fairy doctor and Xiao Yan nodded when they heard him. They grabbed the earth demon puppet and slowly stepped back. Finally, they came to a stop at the entrance of the valley. Xiao Yan turned his gaze away after seeing this. He looked at the corpse with a painful expression, burning within the heavenly flame in the air. His fist slowly tightened. You must endure. The burning of the heavenly flame continued for 2 days. Even though this was the case, the flame burning outside of the corpse did not disappear. However, the pain on the face of the corpse was gradually reduced, perhaps as a result of it having become numb. Moreover, a hidden mighty aura was quietly brewing within the body. Another day passed. On this day, the slight sound of rushing wind suddenly appeared a distance from the valley that had been quiet for a long while. A moment later, a white-clothed man carrying a snake-shaped walking stick slowly appeared at a spot around 100 meters from the entrance of the valley. Many white figures appeared one after another behind him. Cuckoo, the poison fog of this fallen god valley is really too dense. It even hid the scent of the monster core. However, we have finally found them. The old man holding the snake-shaped walking stick looked at the valley. His smile was exceptionally dense. The entrance to the valley was a path that was a couple of dozen feet wide. The little fairy doctor and Xiao Yan were seated cross-legged on the walls beside the path. The earth demon puppet, with its hollow eyes, was beside them. Xiao Yan held her cheeks with her hand as her gaze repeatedly swept over the valley. There had been no commotion in the valley during these couple of days of waiting. She really did not know how things were progressing. Ugh, Xiao Yan softly sighed. She stretched her lazy waist and was just about to speak to the little fairy doctor beside her when the little fairy doctor's tightly shut eyes were suddenly opened. A grave expression instantly surged onto her pretty face. What is it? Xiao Yan was shocked when she saw the appearance of the little fairy doctor, and she hurriedly asked. The people from the Ice River Valley have arrived. An icy cold glint flashed across the little fairy doctor's pretty eyes. She slowly stood up from the ground as a faint killing intent gradually wreathed out of her body. Xiao Yan's expression also changed when she heard the little fairy doctor's words. Her eyes hurriedly looked to the outside of the valley. She indeed saw some white figures in the distance. You are the woeful poison lady, right? While Xiao Yan was looking at the area outside of the valley, an indifferent, old voice was suddenly transmitted from the distance. After which, it landed in the ears of the little fairy doctor and Xiao Yan. The little fairy doctor did not reply to this voice. An icy cold expression was present in her eyes. She clenched his fist and grayish-purple Dou Qi slowly extended out like 2 enormous pythons. Immediately, they meandered around her body. A gentle ripple was suddenly formed in the air at the entrance to the valley not long after the old voice sounded. Immediately, a hunchbacked figure, holding a snake-shaped walking stick, slowly appeared in front of the little fairy doctor's and Xiao Yan's eyes. The little fairy doctor's eyes narrowed when the old man holding a snake-shaped walking stick appeared. She quietly tightened her hands and said in a clear cool voice, "It is indeed an expert at the peak of the Dou Zong class. This Ice River Valley is really willing to put in the effort. Haha, it is not overboard for the old me to act for the woeful poison lady. Moreover, according to the rules of my Ice River Valley, those who have killed the elders of my valley will also be captured and put to death." The old man holding the snake-shaped walking stick was naturally the elder Tianxi from the Ice River Valley, who had entered the fallen god stream in search of Xiao Yan's group. At this moment, his narrow eyes were looking at the little fairy doctor above him. He smiled slightly while his voice contained an unconcerned tone. He is Ice River Valley's elder Tianxi. Xiao Yan, who was behind the little fairy doctor, revealed a somewhat pale white face due to the large group of Ice River Valley's experts that had appeared. When her eyes paused on that old man, her paleness grew even more intense as she involuntarily cried out. "Elder Tian Shi." The little fairy doctor was startled. Immediately, her face changed a little. Even someone like her, who had entered the pill region a short while ago, had heard of this person's name. It was rumored that this old fellow was not only strong, but had also practiced the ice Zun force of the Ice River Valley to a peak level. An ordinary Dou Zong was unable to even last 10 exchanges against him. Moreover, each time this person fought, he would not leave anyone alive. Additionally, he relied on the overbearingness of his Ice Zun force to freeze his opponents into lifelike ice sculptures, causing one to feel terrified just by looking at it. The fierce reputation of this old fellow was quite well known in this middle region. The little fairy doctor had not expected the Ice River Valley to dispatch this old demon. "Why are there only the two of you? I remember there seemed to be a young man in a spiritual body that possessed a great strength, no?" Tian Shi gently stuck the snake-shaped walking stick into the ground as he laughed, asked the both of them to come out. "Today, the old me shall not let anyone off. Otherwise, it would be difficult for me to account to the valley chief. I'm afraid that you don't have that ability." The little fairy doctor coldly laughed. She turned her head to Xian and said, "Head to the valley. Look after Xiao Yan and Tian Huazunja." Xian hesitated for a moment after hearing her words. However, after thinking about how she would only be a burden to the little fairy doctor, she could only clench her teeth and swiftly withdraw. After which, she leaped into the valley. The little fairy doctor knit her eyebrows. She did not expect this old demon to be aware of their fight with the sky-poisoned dragon-scorpion beast. He was indeed somewhat skilled. "Old Shi, leave this woman to us. You can just rest." One of the three white-clothed, old men beside Tian Shi glanced at the little fairy doctor before speaking in a respectful manner. "There's no need. The old me is also extremely interested in this woeful poison lady." Tian Shi suddenly rubbed the back of his ear when he spoke until this point. There was a brown scar at that spot. An ugly hole was vaguely present in the scar. It was as though the flesh had been dug out of that spot. It caused one to shiver when looking at it. Tian Shi rubbed this brown scar. A chill suddenly surged out of both of his eyes. "I can't remember just when I exchanged blows with that last person that had the woeful poison body. However, I have a deep memory of that person. Today, allow the old me to see just what level this woeful poison body has reached." The three white-clothed, old men looked at each other after hearing this. None of them dared to say anything more. Being defeated by the expert who possessed the woeful poison body back then had left a bloody scar in the heart of Tian Shi. They did not dare to say anything over this matter. "All of you should guard the four corners of this valley. Do not allow anyone to escape." Tian Shi lifted the snake-shaped walking stick as he slowly walked forward. After which, his feet stepped on empty air as he climbed through the air. His eyes glanced at the little fairy doctor and the earth demon puppet beside her before laughing with a faint voice, "Other than you, there will not be anyone else alive in this valley." The little fairy doctor's face was icy cold. Her eyes swept over the valley without leaving a trace while her hands involuntarily tightened. There was still no activity within the valley. It seemed that the merger of Tian Huazunja with his physical body had yet to finish. "I can only try my best to delay the time. Hopefully, Xiao Yan can increase the speed of the merger." The little fairy doctor inhaled a gentle breath. She shifted her legs. Her foot had just stepped forward when the earth demon puppet seemed to have been dragged by something. A boom sound appeared as its foot stomped violently on the ground. After which, it rushed toward Tian Shi in the sky. The little fairy doctor hurriedly followed after seeing this. The vast and mighty Dou Qi on her palms transformed into two grayish-purple large Dou Qi pythons. They emitted a hissing sound as they cut through the distant air and bit at Tianxi. Bang! The earth demon puppet violently collided against the space wall. The rebounding effect returned most of the force to the body of the puppet, sending the earth demon puppet flying. Tianxi slowly raised his shriveled hand after randomly forcing back the earth demon puppet. After which, he faced the little fairy doctor and made a sudden grabbing motion. Immediately, a 10-foot large, cold air palm shot out and grabbed the two large grayish-purple Dou Qi pythons. With a ruthless pinch, the two enormous pythons crumbled, transforming into countless energy spots that scattered to the ground. A cold smile surfaced on Tianxi's face after having shattered the enormous pythons. He waved his hand and an enormous palm appeared in front of the little fairy doctor in a lightning-like fashion. After which, it was violently slammed down. The little fairy doctor's pretty face changed slightly when she sensed the shocking cold air that had suddenly arrived. She could sense the circulation of the Dou Qi within her body was clogged in the face of this shocking cold air. What powerful ice Zun force! A seriousness surged onto the little fairy doctor's face. Dense, grayish-purple Dou Qi swiftly surged out of her body. After which, it gathered above her head. Bang! The large, cold ice palm landed without any obstruction, colliding with her grayish-purple Dou Qi. Frightening cold air surged out. Immediately, tiny ice flakes surfaced on her grayish-purple Dou Qi. The enormous palm completely smashed the little fairy doctor's defenses in a tricky manner. Grug! The little fairy doctor was forced back in defeat after merely one exchange. An expert at the peak of the Dou Zong class was this powerful. Tianxi smiled slightly after having defeated the little fairy doctor with one palm. He was about to give chase when a silver-colored figure once again rushed over without fearing death. A silver glow was flickering over its fist. Faint disdain surfaced in Tianxi's eyes when he sensed the sharp wind contained on the fist of the silver-colored figure. All the puppet had was brute strength. It was still fine if it was dealing with an ordinary Dou Zong. However, it was undoubtedly just a reckless act against him. Snow White, cold air swiftly gathered on Tianxi's hand. In the blink of an eye, it transformed into an ice fist that struck forward. Bang! The ice fist and the fist of the earth demon puppet violently collided at a speed that caused a great impact. Ice flakes immediately flew in all directions. Tianxi coldly laughed as the ice flakes shot out from the ice fist, and his arms suddenly and strangely wiggled, like a snake, before it suddenly shook. Boom! The floodwater-like force surged out while the arm was wiggling. This force contained the strength of the earth demon puppet. That strange wiggling technique seemed to have completely reflected the earth demon puppet's attack. The force spread out in a ripple form and a half-a-finger-deep fist mark sank into the chest of the earth demon puppet. If it did not possess any life nor feel any pain, it was likely that Tianxi's hand would have killed it. Even though this was the case, the earth demon puppet was still violently thrown down. Finally, it shattered a couple of large rocks before it was deeply imprinted in the mountain wall. You're only a so-so. The little fairy doctor's face was ice-cold. She wiped away the trace of blood on the corner of her mouth. The seal formed by her hands changed and was just about to undo the seal of the woeful poison body when a soft laugh suddenly spread from the valley. I think that there is no need to return to the Ice River Valley. This fallen god stream is not a bad burial ground. It should be quite a good place for your old bones to be buried here. Tianxi slowly withdrew the smile on his face while he stood in the air. His eyes were gloomy as they landed on the entrance of the valley. Two figures were slowly walking out. Tianxi's eyes paused on the young figure. Soon after, they turned to the old man, who was wearing a smile. After which, his gloomy face slowly stiffened. Dou Zun. His soft voice contained a little dullness and shock as it suddenly spread, causing the air around to quietly freeze. Dou Zun. These two simple words appeared to possess an demonic power that instantly caused the air above the land to solidify. The chilly killing aura that was formed by the many Ice River Valley's disciples completely collapsed in the face of these two words. Two figures slowly walked out of the entrance of the valley. Xiao Yan lifted the little fairy doctor up, and saw the hint of blood on the corner of her mouth. The slight smile on his face involuntarily tightened. However, this smile was filled with a killing aura and a chilly feeling. Have you succeeded? The little fairy doctor looked at Tian Huazunja behind Xiao Yan and asked joyfully. Xiao Yan grinned slightly and nodded. He asked, "Are you all right?" "It's just some minor injuries." The little fairy doctor randomly replied. This time around, she had paid some attention and did not allow the Ice Zun force to invade her body. Additionally, that Tian she wanted to capture her alive. Therefore, he had held back when he launched his palm attack. It was due to this that her injuries were not considered serious. Xiao Yan grabbed the little fairy doctor's hand. He only felt assured after probing her. Turning his head, he looked at Tian Shi in the sky, whose face had suddenly turned volatile and uneasy. He smiled as he said, "This elder's blows are really heavy." Tian Shi's expression was dark and solemn as he glanced at Xiao Yan. After which, he let out a cold snort. His eyes slid to Tian Huazunja. Although he had yet to say a word, the vague pressurizing feeling that spread from his body caused Tian Shi to feel as though his heart had tightened. This kind of pressure was something that he had only sensed from the Ice River Valley's valley chief and another old demon who had always surpassed him. Those two had truly stepped into the Dou Zun class. In other words, this plain old man was definitely a Dou Zun expert. The appearance of this person should be that of the spiritual body back then. At that time, he had only reached the level of an 8-star Dou Zong. Now, however, it seems like that was done on purpose. A thought quickly passed through Tian Shi's heart in this quiet atmosphere. Due to Tian Huazunja's soul completely merging with this new body, even the appearance of the body had changed. It had turned into one that was similar to Tian Huazunja's soul. Therefore, Tian Shi had managed to recognize Tian Huazunja as the spiritual body from just a glance. "This friend, we can choose not to pursue the matter of you having killed the elder of the Ice River Valley. However, my Ice River Valley cannot let off these people. Hopefully, on account of my valley's chief face, Tian Shi was worthy of being an expert renowned for a long time. Even when facing an elite Dou Zun, he was still able to calm himself after losing his composure." He cupped his hands respectfully to Tian Huazunja, but he was interrupted before he could say all that he wanted to say. "I am unfamiliar with your valley chief. The old me doesn't think I need to give him any face." Tian Huazunja gently twisted his arm. He still felt a little unfamiliar after having merged with this body. However, this feeling of possessing a physical body was really too wonderful. He glanced at Xiao Yan beside him and smiled. After which, he raised his head and answered Tian Shi with a smile. Tian Shi's expression slightly sank when he heard this. With his status and strength, it had been a long time since someone dared to say such words to him. While Tian Shi's expression had sunk, the 3 Ice River Valley's elders not far below also gradually recovered from their shock. Their gazes contained disbelief as they looked at the old man behind Xiao Yan. Dou Zun. How was it possible that this group of people would possess an expert at such a level? The 3 Ice River Valley's elders exchanged glances with each other. Their mouths were filled with bitterness. The change of this situation was really testing one's ability to resist a blow. Earlier, they were the wolves surrounding the goats. However, in the blink of an eye, a fierce tiger appeared among these goats. The change of identities from the hunter to the hunted seemed a little too quick. The old me is aware that you are not a nice person. Similarly, the old me also belongs to the type of people who will take revenge against those who offend me. Since you have wounded someone, you will naturally have to pay the price for doing so. Tian Huazunjia gave a faint smile while the expressions of the people from the Ice River Valley were volatile. He turned his head to Xiao Yan and said, "Leave them to me." Xiao Yan slightly nodded. He lifted the little fairy doctor and slowly took 2 steps back before softly saying, "Since the Ice River Valley intends to deliver such a big gift, we should just accept it." Tian Huazunjia smiled and nodded. His robes suddenly rose despite the absence of any wind. The surrounding air was like a wave of water as it began to swiftly fluctuate. A mighty force slowly spread out. "This friend, do you really wish to become enemies with my Ice River Valley? Don't think that you can be fearless just because you are an elite Dozun. My Ice River Valley has never been afraid of anyone." Tian Shi's eyes became darker when he saw the situation. The snake-shaped walking stick in his hand struck the empty air ruthlessly as he coldly cried out. Tian Huazunjia acted as though he did not hear this cold cry. The space around his body began to fluctuate even more intensely. Under this kind of fluctuation, the surrounding rock fragments began to tremble. They quickly split apart, transforming into countless grains of tiny sand. "Everyone from the Ice River Valley, listen up. Form the strong dragon mysterious profound formation." Tian Shi swiftly took a couple of steps back and cried out to the members of the Ice River Valley below in a stern manner. All the members of the Ice River Valley shivered when they heard Tian Shi's cry. However, these people were also considered the elites in the Ice River Valley. They immediately spread apart and formed an extremely mysterious formation. Tian Shi was located at the eye of the formation. Ha! Wave after wave of low cries was repeatedly being emitted from the mouths of the Ice River Valley's disciples. Immediately, clusters of white-colored cold air shot from the tops of their heads. The white-colored cold air of the 3 Ice River Valley's elders were the strongest. Countless blobs of strange white-colored, cold air rose before agglomerating in the sky, lingering over Tian Shi's body. At this moment, both of his eyes furiously opened. The seal formed by everyone's hands swiftly changed, forming numerous dazzling afterimages. Strong dragon mysterious profound formation, blood offering summons the profound dragon. Tian Shi's fingernail cut the tip of his finger. Fresh blood shot out and immediately merged into the murky, cold air. He widened his mouth and an unusually mighty deep blue air shot out. Finally, it agglomerated with the many intermingling vapors. As it swiftly wiggled, 1,000-foot large, frosty dragon slowly appeared in the sky. A paleness surged on the faces of Tian Shi and those people from the Ice River Valley when the ice-cold, large dragon appeared. The skin of some of the disciples had even become much drier. Their hair also showed signs of a weathering yellow color. Xiao Yan frowned slightly as he looked at this icy cold dragon. The Ice River Valley really lived up to its name. They possessed such a mysterious formation. However, at a glance, it seemed the price they paid to use this kind of formation was significant. Tian Huazunjia's body was suspended in the sky. His eyes looked at the large dragon as some surprise flashed through them. This icy cold dragon was agglomerated from the Dou Qi and essence blood of all the people here from the Ice River Valley. Its might far exceeded that of an ordinary peak-level Dozong. "This friend, if you withdraw now, my Ice River Valley will still see you as a VIP." Tian Shi spoke in a deep voice while his eyes stared intently at Tian Huazunjia, whose robes were fluttering despite the absence of any wind. "You are merely bluffing." Tian Huazunja faintly replied. You are bringing this on yourself. A cold glint flickered in Tian Shi's eyes. He did not believe that this dragon, formed from everyone's Dou Qi, posed no threat to this person in front of them. Go! Tian Shi furiously cried out as he pointed his finger at Tian Huazunja. The icy cold, large dragon in the sky immediately let out a roar. It widened its large mouth as a dragon aura, dozens of feet large, shot toward Tian Huazunja in a lightning-like fashion. Faint white-colored ice fragments appeared wherever the dragon's aura passed. Tian Huazunja's finger gently cut the space in front of him as he looked at the icy-cold dragon aura that shot over. The air was just like thin paper as it was torn apart. A dark black spatial crack, that looked just like a pocket, appeared out of nowhere. The dragon's aura was sucked into it. Spatial strangling. The space of the entire place immediately began to fluctuate after Tian Huazunja's soft cry sounded. The space around the icy cold, large dragon swiftly became distorted. Spatial folds could even be vaguely seen. Crack. A dark black broken layer appeared after the folds revealed themselves. The large dragon's body was forcefully torn apart by the spatial distortion. After which, it was swallowed into the dark black crevice. The icy cold dragon immediately roared at the sky after its body broke. Its enormous body carried an incomparable sonic boom as it charged over toward Tian Huazunja. Tian Huazunja revealed an empty smile as he watched the icy cold, large dragon charge over. His suddenly clenched his hand. Crack. 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 More space was swiftly distorted. Numerous folds continuously appeared. The location where each fold appeared was the spot where the dragon was located. It had yet to even reach 1,000 feet from Tian Huazunja when its enormous body was shattered into pieces and swallowed into nothingness. By the time the icy cold, large dragon had charged at Tian Huazunja, only its enormous head remained. Tian Huazunja extended his hand and pressed it on the dragon's forehead. With a flick of his finger, that ice dragon was shattered into ice fragments that permeated the sky. Throwing an egg against a stone, utterly weak. The faces of Tian Shi and the others immediately turned red the moment the ice dragon was shattered. They spat out mouthfuls of fresh blood at the same time. An elite Dou Zun was this terrifying.